Welcome back to Community Connections with Norma G, and I am super excited about this final segment of the show. We have a very special guest, as all my guests are always special, but when you have the opportunity to sit down with someone that you've known for a very long time, and they're super excited about where they want to go with their business and stuff, it's nice to have that opportunity. And so may I now introduce Mr. Wali Waiters, who is a very good friend of mine for 20 plus years now.
20 plus years. Can you believe it? Oh, how the time flies.
And can you believe that here we are sitting here on this microphone sharing all this incredible information.
Oh, absolutely.
Wally had the opportunity to sit in here while we had the previous guests on. And yes. Wally is an executive business coach, a motivational speaker for Business Builders Academy, and he also is in the television production business for Profile Series Productions.
Yes,
and so you have an amazing background with television production, and you saw me doing this radio show, and you reached out to me.
It was a funny thing. I was talking to a friend of mine the day before, and I said, maybe I need to do a radio show, and then I look on Facebook, and there's Norma, like the next day. So it was definitely something divine.
Had you seen me in the previous months before at all?
I've never seen you at all.
Because I'm on every week.
I had no clue.
And then, really, because yes. I've been on every week since October, yes. Every Monday, and you never ran into any of the posts.
Not once.
Until the day that you... And that's interesting because
yes.
it's a feed, and that's okay. But that's why many times people say, related to social media, you should have multiple posts a couple different times of the week.
Exactly.
Because you're not going to catch everybody at the same second.
And I'm on there a lot lately, and I never caught her before, so I believe my eyes were maybe open for that particular day.
And that happens. Isn't that funny how that happens? And so tell me that you heard the previous guest that we just had on.
Yes.
They're inspirational.
Oh, absolutely. Very inspirational.
It's so you don't have to necessarily be an inspirational speaker to be inspirational. However, you do have the gift and talent to be able to speak in front of crowds and yes. speak, uplifting messages to help people get rid of the barriers and roadblocks that sometimes are in their lives, either personally or professionally. So share with me a little bit about that, that area of your life that you want to now kind of spend a little bit different type of time in.
Well, it's different. It's a funny thing. When people ask me, where do I get my inspiration? It comes from on high, because I don't really sit there and think about things. It just sort of flows to me. I might hear one word, and from that word, it just resonates with my spirit. And then I start to develop whatever that message, and I know that all the messages that I develop are for a very particular portion of the people who are listening to me. Maybe not for everyone, but for that. So what I've been doing, I've been in business now for about 15 years. Profile Series Productions. I really believe that I have a calling to speak and share a message that's really going to help and change people's lives. And specifically, in this particular case, what I'm looking at is business owners, I'm looking at CEOs, I'm looking at entrepreneurs. People have a dream or a vision of something that they want to create in life.
And so now if someone is already a CEO or a business owner, aren't they already living their dream in their life?
That's what you would think. And I want to share my story really quick.
Tell me.
I remember I started my business, and the reason that I started my business, I wanted to have freedom. But I got exactly the opposite. And what I mean by that? Well, I tried to do everything. I built my first website. I would follow up and look over everyone's shoulder to make sure they didn't make a mistake, because a mistake would mean a lot of money. And I think as a lot of business owners, we want to hold on to every single element, even though we have people in place who can help us out and who can do the job. So what I found after several years, I said, I can't do this, because I was working long hours. I was never home. And don't get me wrong, I like to work, but I wasn't taking vacations and didn't have that freedom. And I finally discovered, in order to have that freedom, I have to trust and allow people, trust them that they're capable of doing their job, and allow them to do it without me breathing down their necks.
So it's a matter of really kind of the art of letting go of some of the control, because when you're the CEO or you're the owner, you built that baby from the beginning, and now as you grow, you have these people in place, but no one does it as good as you. Is how to delegate and how to let go some of that control.
Yes, that's correct. And part of it, I tell you, it's done in my growth. My limiting beliefs for other people's talents and abilities actually stopped me from growing. And what I realized is that I had to make some changes, make sure I brought in the right people, not just someone who was a friend or a family member. Not that that's wrong, because sometimes that can work out, but I realized I signed up for freedom and I wasn't getting it. So I finally said, you know what? Let me go ahead and make a change. So I really put it out there, and I really wrote down the ideal people that I wanted to work for my company. And it's amazing. Once you put something on paper, it just starts to manifest and come to pass. So, quick story about that, and I remember for years, never took a vacation. We would do the weekend stops at Disney World, 2 days away. I never took a 1-week vacation. And one day I decided, you know what? I'm going to take a 1-week vacation. We planned it out a while back, and I remember I went to the gym one morning. And on my way back from the gym, I started getting these heart palpitations. I'm like, great, the day of my vacation, 1 week, now I'm getting heart palpitations, what's going on? So I went to the urgent care center, and what the doctor told me changed my life forever. He said, young man, I was young back then, he said, I've seen this happen so many times with guys your age. You better take a big check and just learn how to relax and let go of control. I wasn't the only one out there, so my whole point was so I made a change in my life. I decided, you know what? I went on my vacation. I was totally stressed out, electronic devices, iPhones, everything else to try to send emails, and I realized that wasn't right. So it took me 2 or 3 days to wind down. But I realized something. When talking to other entrepreneurs, we all have that same problem. We don't want to take a vacation because we're afraid if we go out of town, guess what? Everything is going to stop. There's going to be no more production, no money coming in. Oh, my gosh. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh, my. And now, so the next year comes around. I had the perfect team in place. And I can tell you something. My head person at the time, her name was Manuela. She said, Wally, don't worry about it. We got your back. And I got to tell you, I had so much peace. But it took me years to be able to allow people and cultivate people to get them trained up in the right place where they can do the job themselves.
And so I think when you just said that I signed up for freedom, which is kind of like when someone's like, I don't want to work for someone else, I want to work for myself. So you're signing up for freedom, but you get the opposite.
You got bondage.
You got bondage.
Yes.
And so what you're saying is that in order to, but you really are, if you do it properly, are signing up for freedom because you don't have to answer to someone else, if you will. And that's the ultimate goal. And so that's that's one of the barriers that you find with executive business coaching, that you can help someone to trust and to delegate. And what's another barrier, do you think, that someone would utilize needing a business coach?
There's a lot of different things. And one of the things, you ever heard the mentality sink or swim?
Sink or swim.
Okay. Where that's derived from is that throwing someone into the pool and seeing whether they sink or swim. And I have one big problem with that. Every single person I knew that was thrown into the pool and taught how to swim, they were terrorized. They were fearful. Even if they learned how to swim, they were a very fearful person. What I believe in is making sure that when you hire the proper people, you don't give them a sink or swim mentality. Some business owners, we just want to sink or swim them. I don't believe that. I believe if you hire a quality person and you invested that time in bringing them on and paying them a salary, that you have to train them in the way that they should go. Take the time, identify what their position is, exactly what they're supposed to do, and make sure they understand their role in the company. And if you don't invest that time in the people, it's not going to work. You may have a couple of what you call the one-hit wonder who does phenomenal for 2 months and then he sort of fizzles out. Or you may have the person, that 1 in a million person who works out. But I believe if you want to increase the odds, help your business to succeed, you have to make sure people have a roadmap of where they should go. I call it the ICE principle. Number 1, I for clear instruction. Here's your job. C, consequences. And through an E, execution. So I believe if every person knows this is your job, here's your responsibility, you train them the way they should go, you give them the consequence for not doing the job, then you execute, whether it be retraining or warning them or even firing them at a certain point. But I think a lot of business owners run a pretty loose camp because they feel that you don't want to waste time, and they believe they're on that mill of just hiring people over and over and over again. And I used to do that. But I realized once I started to settle down, hire people, train them for their jobs, then when I built up a good executive team of people that freed me up to do what I wanted to do. And that's what I'm really wanting to help business owners to do, is to really realize and actualize that freedom that they signed up for.
That's incredible. So when you have a client that you can either meet them in person or you can consult with them on the phone,
Yes.
do you ever go to their businesses to assess and observe their interactions with employees, those types of things?
I do that thing on a rare occasion if they're local here in Boca, but I work with people all over the country. And what we do is with social media and with a lot of different of these applications now, I can have what we call Zoom conversations, where actual virtual meetings on video. We have groups like Voxer that we can talk back and forth on a daily basis. And of course, we have a closed Facebook group called the Business Builders Academy that we can actually interact on a daily basis with questions or comments, and more or less just creating a mastermind group of other CEOs, executives, and entrepreneurs we can actually encourage and feed off of each other. So with technology has made this so much easier to communicate.
Right, because you can have a face-to-face interview with not interview or a session.
Yes.
With somebody on the phone. And, the way I see it is kind of like, if you can be at your top or, in a successful position, it's how to either stay successful, reduce the stress levels, or even become more successful. And so sometimes you don't have to be at the bottom in order to want to have a coach.
No, you don't.
You want to be an elite person and stay elite or acquire eliteness.
Absolutely. There's one of the people I listen to a lot, Darren Hart. He talks about that most successful people have several coaches, a coach for every area of their life. Because you know what? As an entrepreneur, as a leader, you sort of stand out. You have to have someone who's a mentor or someone who's a coach to invest in you when you want to go to that next level in the various areas of your life. You can have a relationship coach, a personal trainer. You can have a business coach. If you have another specialized area, you can have a coach for that too.
Or like the young gal Deborah that was just here, like a nutritional type of health
Right.
coach.
Mm-hmm.
That type of thing as well. So that's incredible. Wally, what I always have found fascinating about you and knowing you, over many, many years, is that you have a natural knack for, how would you define wisdom? Because I find that you have an insight when you look at things, when you analyze things, that no one walks away from you, whether they want to hear the information or not, but nonetheless, you may challenge that person for the better, in love. And so what's your thoughts on wisdom? Because I feel that you have a natural knack for wisdom and being able to see things.
You know what? I believe a lot of people can see things, but they're just not tuned in. Just like a radio frequency. You want to tune into this station, you have to go to 95.3. So
This station, that's for sure.
This station,
Yes.
for sure. My point is, you can't attune on 106.5. You're not going to get this station. For me, I have a natural knack for seeing things. I've always been a seer, and I've always had messages come to me from on high that I stop, I tune in, and I listen. And I used to be afraid to use this gift. A fear of judgment, what are people going to say? But I've learned how to cultivate it in a way that people don't even have to know where it's coming from. But I listen and I apply the knowledge. And again, I trust myself now. When I get a message for someone, it's very specific. When I get a teaching, I do a lot of Facebook videos. And usually those come from inspiration, and I know it's not for everyone. And I share it, and I know it's going to minister to a few people out there who hear it. And for me, it's more or less getting tuned in. And a lot of times as a business owner, we run around all the time. We're busy all day long, and we don't take a break for ourselves. And I've learned that the times that I slow down, take a time of peace, read the Word, pray, meditate, and just be still, then I start to hear these things, and I start to cultivate these messages. And I always pray for the people before I send the message out as well, silently, just so you guys know that.
Okay. Well, that's what I've always kind of, felt about you, is that, someone could, share with you a little bit about what's going on with themselves, and that you always had a word of encouragement or of, why don't you look at it this way, look at it that way. Not that the average person can't do that either, but you seem to have a very penetrating, piercing kind of gift. I call it a gift.
Yes.
To be able to, help people really kind of like, if you keep going in the same direction, when I really need to turn left or right.
Exactly.
And you kind of help pave the way a little bit for that. And so, it's been such a pleasure to kind of get back in touch with you and to
Yes.
hear about how you're doing and how you want to continue to develop in this particular area now with executive business coaching. Wally, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's your website, your Facebook page, and your phone number?
Okay, first of all, my website is waliwaiters.com, and I'll spell it out for you. It's WAIWALI dot waliwaiters.com. So it's Wali, W-A-L-I, Waiters, W-A-I-T-E-R-S.com. If you want to find me easier, you can hit me up on Facebook. Again, search my name, Wali Waiters, spelled with W-A-L-I and W-A-I-T-E-R-S as well. My phone number, if you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me directly, 561-602-4201. And one more thing I'd like to share here. I just was published as an author in a book. It's called Journey to the Stage. And I wrote a chapter on gratitude. And I believe that gratitude is something that's important no matter what you do in life. And what I do, if you go to my Facebook page, there's a book. You can order it. It's only 99 cents. just click on a link and email me the receipt. And what I'm going to be offering for you guys is this. I am going to do a free 7-day training on Facebook as part of a group called the Business Builders Academy. And I'm going to offer you a lot of tips how you can identify your ideal client, tips on how to generate revenue, tips how to become the expert in what you do. And this is only for a certain frame mind of people. Know who those people are, Norma?
Who's that?
They're action takers, not action fakers. In other words, entrepreneurs, leaders, and business owners who really want to make a difference. And just hit me up on Facebook, and all you have to do is say, I'm in, I want to be a part of this, and we'll include you in the group.
So that's the word for the week. Are you an action taker or an action faker?
Yes, that is correct.
I'd like to consider myself an action taker.
And I always say I'm proud of this young lady for sure.
Thank you so much, Wally. It's so great to have you here in the studio, and I wish you well on continuing to grow and with your business building academy business. So we'll be back next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to Community Connections, and have a fabulous, fabulous week. And stay dry, everyone. Have a great week. You've been listening to Community Connections with Norma G. We will be back next Monday from 5 to 6 p.m. with new guests to share about what's hot, what's new, and what's happening in our community.